All right, guys, so I wanted to take a look back at the San Diego Chargers' last proposals before they ended up moving to LA. We've got three different stadiums, three different renderings to look at, starting with kind of the most popular one, which was San Diego Stadium, designed back in 2016 with a capacity of 65,000 and a total cost of 1.8 billion, which would probably be rounded up to 2 billion in today's money. This rendering is the one stadium that I think, if it actually got built, we could call it a super stadium of the NFL. There was also a convention center attached to it that was conjoined in a mixed-use way. It was a retractable roof stadium located right next to Petco Park. You can see some aerial photos of it. Yeah, there's the convention center attached to the side, and you do have some greenery mixed in. I'm not the biggest fan of greenery, but in this particular case, I don't think it looks the worst. This is their best design by far, I would say. You can see like the community aspect of it with the convention center attached right there, some more renderings, and then the interior of it, which I think this one, very, very impressive, very nice design, very modern. You do have the overhang, even when the roof is open, you've still got the overhang there, and wow, what an interesting rendering that is. It looks like it's a boating expo right there, with you see the roof over top. Maybe they were dealing with some rain this day in the rendering. They got the roof on it, little boat expo there. But no, this is their best one. The only issue I see, that upper deck gets a little bit big. We might want to limit that a little bit there behind the one end zone. Maybe open that up a little bit to a bar area. Take out a few of those sections if it was redesigned in 2023. Remember, this design was 7 years ago, so even though that's not that long and it still is a super impressive design, it might be still a little bit outdated. The interior seating does remind me a little bit, almost as a combination, like maybe Allegiant Stadium a little bit on the interior, just kind of with the big 2-deck approach. And there is the location comparison, Qualcomm Stadium versus San Diego Stadium. Qualcomm was the last one they played at before they ended up moving they had to go to that soccer, MLS little 20,000 seat field, and then they went to SoFi when it got opened up. But the interesting history on this stadium, during the 2016 election, when it was Trump versus Hillary, there was a vote for the $1.8 billion stadium, which got shut down by the voters and effectively killed this project, very similar to what happened to the Arizona Coyotes recently with their $2.1 billion arena complex that got shut down. So yeah, kind of an interesting little history. The same night as the 2016 election, there was a bill that got voted on, and they shut it down, and this project never took off. There you can see the convention center attached to that. I do think this was their best design out of the three stadiums, and it was the most realistic one, and it was the one that I really would consider to be a state-of-the-art NFL stadium in 2023. If this thing would have been okayed and San Diego would have stayed there, you could see this thing breaking ground 2017, possibly opening in 2020, which is the exact same time frame of SoFi Stadium. The next stadium was called New Charger Stadium. It had a capacity of 2,000 more people, so 67,000, and was designed in 2015. It also had the capability to increase the capacity by 5,000 for larger events, like potentially hosting the Super Bowl. As for the theming, the stadium celebrates San Diego as the city of villages. Thus, it's a series of semi-open, interconnected facilities rather than one large building. It's covered from the outside with a ribbon-like cladding that resembles ocean waves meeting the city shore. So yeah, this one, it almost looks like a design from Mario Kart. Does anyone else, you get that kind of vibe there with that? And I personally, I'm not a big fan of when the MLB stadiums do the split upper deck, I understand it's like a different aspect of it, and the split upper deck actually does make the seating better because the upper deck can be closer to the action. With NFL stadiums, like, if you were to show me a rendering of this with it completely interconnected versus what it is right now, if it was interconnected and it was just a canopy going all the way around, it would look like a European soccer stadium. So maybe this is a way to be unique, and it does look like it has almost a light up type roof design. So this is another one that I think is good. There you can see that's a very nice design. I like that roof with the Chargers colors, the little, white, blue. And also it does have a pretty impressive exterior. Man, does it have a lot of areas on the interior for seating. Wow. Seems like it seats more than 67K just looking at that. It has like 2 different upper decks. It's got a bunch of lower bowl areas with club seats over top of them. That is a lot of seating. That's an interesting configuration. And there it is right there. That's a normal. I'll tell you what, it does look a little cheap when looking at like the little roof over the scoreboard. That just looks cheap to me. I don't know why. I think because it's not connected. That might, I don't know, that might be a little problem, but that was their second design right there. And then they actually had an updated rendering of it. This is the more updated photos of what it would look like. You can see the middle club section split. I like that. That's unique. That's interesting. It also looks like there might be some brick to this, if that's what that is. No, I don't think that's what that is. Yeah, that's not what that is, but the stadium had an unknown cost, just judging from these renderings, the fact that it's not retractable. I would say probably around $1.7 billion in today's money for that new stadium. And then the third possible stadium in San Diego, 65,000 total capacity, which is very similar to the other two. The total cost at $1.2 billion in 2015 money, so a little bit cheaper with this design. The roof is in a circular form that would cover only some fans from the rain, but that wasn't thought to be a main issue because its shape and height provided shade for the vast majority of users while maintaining the open feel. Also, the light steel membrane composition becomes an iconic part of this design, standing out like masts of yachts on the horizon nearby. So this one, I mean, I think it's fairly obvious this is the worst design out of all three. Just looking at it, they're just trying to do too much with it, with the masts, the little, cables, stuff like that. It is a canopy look, and the way they're positioning the canopy, it's supposedly based on where the sun rises and sets, it's going to cover most of the fans from the actual rays. But yeah, I mean, you can just tell by the looks of it, this was a very limited rendering. It's hard to really tell exactly what it was going to be. And there you can see it. It does more so look like a soccer stadium, and it was mixed use. I mean, I'm sure all of these were mixed use, but this one, it wouldn't surprise me if this was developed by European architects, just based off of the way this looks. This is definitely like a newer type soccer stadium, but there you can see with the different renderings including, and then that is just a better look of the inspired structure, kind of the way, the cables go. They wanted to mimic yachts, I guess, which, it's understandable, but I don't think this rendering is very good when you compare it to the other two in terms of San Diego stadiums, but none of these ended up happening. I would say, in summary, by far the best stadium was that first rendering. I could realistically see something like that actually being designed today. There's a few things I would change about it, like maybe when it comes to the upper deck, things like that, but overall, that is a really, really nice rendering, especially for like 2015, 2016. Seems like it could have been made yesterday. And then you also have the convention center attached to it. But again, that is the stadium that I would say probably had the best chance of happening if San Diego kept their team. The relocation, it's always one of those things. You're playing in a bad stadium that's old, your attendance isn't the best, but man, San Diego losing the Chargers is tough just because the city has such ridiculously nice weather. It just feels peaceful, and if they would have put up a stadium like this, they would have, at minimum, gotten 3 or 4 Super Bowls out of it. The weather, you're in California. I understand SoFi is hosting Super Bowls, but just the location of it, San Diego versus Inglewood, you know, I don't know. It is sad that San Diego lost their team, but that's the NFL. It's a business, and they end up moving. And now it really seems like the thing with San Diego, the thing with the LA Chargers, they just don't have much of a fan base at SoFi. Everyone talks about their home games are like neutral site. So it is a sad story, but either way, those were the 3 main stadiums that could have possibly been built if San Diego would have stayed within the city and not moved to LA. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.